Welcome back. It's a good night for a story. We'll keep you company. Thanks for listening and or watching. Now, tonight's tale. In humanity's first ever interstellar civil war, nearly all society is dependent upon artificials like Inspector Lazareth, a 3.5-foot tall robot. A cross between Sherlock Holmes and R2-D2, he investigates homicides in Underborn, farthest colony from Earth. Lazareth and a Case of Ancient Aliens. Chapter 1. Bioy, an excretion of gaseous planetons with smatterings of rusty maroon and bile yellow rocks passing for moons. Planetons were the greatest exoplanets humans had yet encountered. Bizarre in the extreme. Technically neither Jovian nor terrestrial. Speeding gases and gravity wells produced sunset smears and other natural wonders that defied the eyes. No life, of course. Hadn't found a single blessed microbe. Even the starters for basic molecules were so rare it wasn't even worth discussing. Imagine then the rippling, quasar-level shockwaves when Dr. Peter Qoheleth proudly broadcast he'd hit pay dirt. Not life, mind you. Alien ruins. That's right, a rock face entrance complete with interlocking subterranean tunneling systems that looked like something right out of the Bible. Bioy was already prime real estate for sightseeing before alien fever broke out. But now investors were pouring in from every quadrant of human endeavor. The battleliner UMDD Maelstrom arrived at Knightsboro Pond. This harbor was more grand and posh than anything anywhere. A hanging vertical click of docking dripping starcrafts soaring out of deep waters beset by ribbony starlight. Captain Brubaker personally disembarked with Lazareth. The military insisted on carving out time to see him off. He'd solved the death of 4 passengers while en route, 2 women and their unborn children. However, this created a new matter that would have to be dealt with before tackling the next case. And so, a day after getting settled in at a small country inn, the inspector found himself knocking at the door of a dormitory. Derek Chris answered. "Hello?" said the fresh-faced collegian, not even a month out from graduation. "Mr. Chris, Inspector Lazareth. I'm here to speak to you about Heather Damesbury." 2 of Derek's mates exited as soon as he let Lazareth inside. Considering the bottles of choice spirits strewn about the dorm, they'd all soon be fish. "Derek, just Derek. Sorry about the mess. No one's been able or willing to tell me anything about what's happened." "That's why I came," replied the inspector. "I'm the one who worked the case. It's not pleasant, Derek. I'm with homicide. Your bride and unborn son were killed by someone very close to you, your former girlfriend, Samantha Heathcote." There were several boxes that needed to get ticked during any official notification visit. Specifically, the identification of the victim's body. It wasn't happening today. The young man lurched into the bedroom, then to a bathroom stall, hiding his head under his armpit. Nevertheless, he could readily be heard through the doorframe. Lazareth considered lingering, but very few humans took him seriously in a consolatory role. He cleared a patch of bottles off the coffee table and left a digital contact card. That evening, the inspector waded through streets of stretched luxury vehicles and made his way over to a grand gala being held at the museum and planetarium, the Chester Rotterdammerthum. He couldn't recall seeing this many blokes in one spot at one time since the effort broke out. Didn't know many of the attendees personally, only by reputation. Lazareth did tip his checkered tweed cap at Dr. Andre Fabian. They'd met recently, though the man refused to acknowledge his existence. Wasn't the only one. Waitresses with hors d'oeuvres and sparkling Zinfandel breezed by, too, except for a couple mechanicals in bow ties. Metallic solidarity. Across the room was Dr. Lee Ihad, a slight man with a traditional colonel's handlebar mustache. He'd been aboard a 4-person away shuttle when his colleague Dr. Howard Fishman died. In the corner was a raven-haired young lady that matched the description of Laura Worthing. She'd been on board, too. Her body language made it clear she didn't want to be here, but being attractive as she was, there was nowhere to hide. That made 2. The victim made 3. Where was the 4th? The room full of dignitaries ignited with spontaneous applause. A man appeared on stage from under a golden trellis in the shape of a huge ankh. The entire place was a pastiche of the pyramids of High Egypt. "Ladies and gentlemen," said Peter Qoheleth, "my dear, dear friends, what have we been yearning for? What has our species been yearning for since the age of the pharaohs? Our earliest ancestors yearned to know their earliest ancestors. Well, we're about to get the chance they never got." The man signaled for chamfered glass below everyone's feet to expose the looming planeton beneath. The house lights dimmed and holographic imagery lit up courses of smooth sandstone architecture. The alien beings etched thereon were angelic. Look at her down there, bigger than some dwarf stars, once verdant with life, no doubt. The homeworld of the Iam. Makes one wonder, could these not be the very ones responsible for first seeding life throughout our vast, vast cosmos? Are we not their children, orphaned so long ago? During subsequent Q&A, the inspector took the opportunity to mount a podium mic and ask Peter Qoheleth about the age of the alien superstructures. The man noted the nature of the one asking the question and quickly deferred to other specialists. Afterwards, Lazareth found him chatting up 2 pretty interns. "Inspector Lazareth, Underborn PD. I've been sent out to you regarding Dr. Howard Fishman." "Ah," exclaimed Qoheleth. "Your special skill set is most needed here. Bioy is a fledgling colony. Understaffed and underserved. Fending for ourselves out here, really. Don't have any time to offer you tonight, if you take my meaning, my little fellow." "Please don't trouble yourself about it. Formulary questions anyways," said the inspector. "To be honest, don't even know where the body of the decedent is at the present moment." The eyeballs of the blonde and the ginger redhead hanging off the man's elbows widened substantially, and both excused themselves. He shook his head. Now, was it really necessary to go and say that? Howard is here, though his body is in rough shape. Assume you're programmed to perform a proper coroner's inquest? My special skill set, as you said, Dr. Qoheleth, though I'm actually with homicide. Homicide? I'm sure Howard's death was just a dreadful accident, Inspector. We can rule out accidental death, Lazareth assured. Still, your guests need you more tonight than I do. May I be permitted to go and see the body? Just a moment. The man held up a palm. You haven't interviewed a single solitary witness. How do you know it wasn't an accident? As I understand it, you and Dr. Howard Fishman, Dr. Lee Ahad, and Laura Worthing were all inside an away shuttle. Inside your sleep pods, said the inspector. So, just thinking procedurally, Is there any conceivable way a person could wake up and then inadvertently expose the interior of a starcraft to the violent vacuum of outer space? Dr. Qoheleth inhaled deeply. Did you know that Howard was a notorious somnambulist, or noctambulist, if you like? Talked about it openly. Sleepwalkers reenact waking routines, replied Lazareth. Not highly complex death traps, and in any event, such a condition could never override chemically induced sleep. In that case, there's the possibility of a deliberate act. Suicide, Inspector. I'd be dubious about that also, sir, the inspector continued. Humans are fastidious to avert embarrassing themselves publicly, and that certainly includes their own death. Take the number of preventable casualties in restaurant lavatories. That has its very own dedicated statistic, because people would prefer to choke alone rather than trouble anyone for help. Often friends and family not 25 feet away. If Dr. Fishman were that depressed, he'd simply have waited till he got home to do anything about it. Qoheleth was either satisfied or annoyed, signaling for a curator. Bethy Haldren escorted Lazareth to a set of escalators. At the bottom were some elevator doors. In short order, they were delivered to some refrigerated storerooms along the sub-basements. It's cold down here. Why not go back and enjoy the warmth of the party? The inspector offered politely. She pointed at a heavy fur parka with a matching chapka hat hanging off wall-side hooks. Those are mine. Call me Bethy. The young woman then pulled on an entire biocontainment suit and unlocked a cold-sealed door. Inside were rows of wheeled stainless steel handcarts. 3 had ancient alien rock slabs with sand script that looked like a cuneiform knockoff. 3 others had what looked like the mummified corpses of formerly nymph-like aliens. Didn't realize y'all had discovered life forms out here, too.
Think we both know those are silicone and latex. Artists are getting them ready for the main showroom. Sadly, these ones are quite real.
She lamented through her suit's vocalizer. Lazareth pulled off a cover sheet and found 3 body bags. 2 he knew straight away, 4 actually, Yvette Carrington and her unborn daughter, and Heather Damesbury and her unborn son. The other was a man, now nothing but meaty, reddened remains. The inspector looked up at Bethy. You have a medical background? I'm going to need to unzip Dr. Fishman. She nodded. Howard Fishman was more recognizable zipped than unzipped. Shockingly, even.
Peter told us that he and Dr. Fishman, Dr. Ehad and Laura were all fine when they bedded down in the away shuttle,
said Bethy through a raspy vocalizer.
By the time they got home a few days later, Howard was out of his sleep pod, looking like this.
Few days? Lazareth inquired. Didn't realize hoppers took so long around here.
It's a cinch this is your first visit to a planeton,
she kidded. You're right, he agreed. This is definitely a first for me. Chapter 2. Think I'm a coward? Asked Derek Chris. Running away from Underborn like that? No, said Lazareth. Think you're a young man with a bright future, and just like billions of other young men with bright futures, you're questioning if you really want to die over whether or not Zybrids are human. Let's face it, if they are or they aren't, you are. The inspector pushed open silvery swinging doors, and the 2 stalked inside the Chester Rotterdammer Thumb's sub-basements together. Bethy Haldren, the curator from the night before, greeted them and helped Derek into a biocontainment suit. The young man was visibly shaken upon seeing 3 body bags beyond the cold-sealed door. This is the only one I need you to look at, said Lazareth, unzipping the filmy plastic preserving Heather Damesbury. Just like the previous day at his dorm, Derek lost control of his tears. The inspector chauffeured him into Bethy's arms. He was sure she'd prove more beneficial than his drinking buddies. I'm going to take him home, she said. Make him a bite to eat, then I got to get home myself. Don't want my fiancée to get the wrong idea. Let him go. Derek needs you. The young woman raised thick chocolatey eyebrows with pouty outrage. Are you a cheeky one? Come on, Lazareth scoffed playfully. Yesterday was the biggest night in human sciences since the advent of fire and wheels, and you didn't even invite him? How do you know my fiancé wasn't here last night? She reacted. Malcolm Thinwin, 1725 Donny Gull, he asked. You're right, my mistake. He was on the guest list. Wonder why he stood you up, though. Bethy walked off, then turned back. Flight recorder footage is in my office. Won't be joining you. She flicked off the lights and left him in the dark. Could the inspector get into any locked door in the world? Most with minimal struggle, but that would reflect poorly on the department. The curator's office was open and accessible, and, true to her word, the promised video feed was loaded and ready. Wasn't much to it. 4 scientists enter their sleep pods at a ground base hangar bay. Then, after dust-off, at exactly 2200 hours, the in-flight cameras inexplicably went dark. Lazareth caught a cab, and an auto driver took him over to one of the finest seaside high-risers in Knightsboro Pond. Something was wrong. How was this place financially feasible for Laura Worthing? Wasn't family lather. A quick simultaneity search indicated she was an orphan that had gone to university on hard work and pluck. No one answered her door. After 4 or 5 knocking sessions, 2 different neighbors poked their heads out from down the hall. Do you know if Laura Worthing is at home? Asked the inspector. They both ignored him and slammed their doors as if they'd rehearsed. It was time to press the advantages of a 402 warrant, and a landlord opened her door. Wasn't a hint of anyone living here, bleached and practically move-in ready. At least the landlord was pleased. 3 hours later, Lazareth was back at the Chester Rotterdammerthum. Peter Qoheleth met him at their hangar bay next to a fleet of 9 shuttles. However, there was an empty space and a 10th docking collar. Appreciate you seeing me, said the inspector. No, please. I've been so busy, replied Qoheleth. Can't believe what you told me over the phone. Why would Laura run off like this, especially now when there's so much work to do? Don't suppose it's linked to Dr. Fishman's death? Asked Lazareth. Well, I don't know. I mean, what do you think, Inspector? Dr. Qoheleth, Peter, please, just Peter. The inspector nodded. Maybe it's time we get a look at the away shuttle in question. Qoheleth unlocked shuttle number 1. Its interior was bright as it was bloody. Fire truck red blood. Nobody's been in here since the crime? The man wagged his head. Locked it up myself and kept the keys on my person ever since. I'm going to get the mechanicals in here straight away, said Lazareth. Qoheleth rubbed his forehead with a sigh. In that case, might as well come clean and tell you. Been putting off saying anything till now. While it's true the flight recorder footage is dark, the metadata isn't. Laura exited Sleep Pod 1 at 11 o'clock. By 1:30, Dr. Fishman's Sleep Pod 3 was open. Not a minute later, the Noom report on the escape hatch was released, and then shut again. She strapped into the cockpit harnesses, pulled on an emergency rebreather mask, and exposed the whole cabin to the outside forces of space. While me and Lee were undisturbed in our sleep pods, a drowsy Howard would have been battered in the vacuum. Peter, why didn't you say anything to me about this before? I'm sorry, Inspector. Care a great deal for my personnel. They're like family to me. Was hoping somehow it'd all turn out to be a big mix-up or something. And as self-serving as it may be, I need her here. The inspector stroked his display face with steely fingers. Tell me exactly what happened after the away shuttle got back from the Planeton that day. How was Dr. Fishman's body discovered? Me and Laura were up first, said the man. Saw Howard's body in the state that it was. She was crying about it being a terrible accident. Got Lee out of bed, contacted local authorities, who, I presume, called your department for assistance? Lazareth now tapped his head dome. Can you think of any reason why Laura Worthing would want to do something like this? Did you notice trouble between she and Howard Fishman? Was she mad at him? Anything at all you can recall? Dunno. It's a pity we can't ask her, replied Qoheleth. Chapter 3. Hardly knew Laura, said Dr. Lee Ihad, forcing an olive to swim laps around his vodka glass while puffing on a fine banana leaf cigar. Lot of interns around, you know. Only met that day on the away shuttle. Are you sure I can't fix you something? Understand artificials are equipped for leisure? Lazareth looked about a finely appointed apartment. The man was clearly married, and it was most likely to a spouse of considerable means, judging by the family portraits they'd packed. No, thank you. It'd all be for show. No reason to waste your liquor bar on the likes of me. Know what I'm wondering about, Doctor? Please, call me Lee. How were your co-workers behaving after you woke up? The inspector wanted to know. Behaving? Let's see. Recall Peter awakening me after we landed. Quite startled, naturally. Laura was already gone. Howard was... well... You've already heard about the metadata findings, Lee? Yes, Inspector. Peter told me after you told him that Laura had gone missing. An artificial manservant entered the room with an ashtray for his master. Hard for me to fathom, I must say. Don't know why she'd do it. Had to be personal between the two, or else she would have executed you and Dr. Qoheleth in the same fashion. Lazareth answered for him. Still, if she really wanted this thing to look like an accident, why do everything in her power to incriminate herself? Forgive me, the man interjected. You know your trade better than me, of course, but I don't think this was a premeditated affair. The ruse was as messy as the crime. Sorry, Lee, nothing about this suggests a crime of passion in the spur of the moment. Unless it's just a coincidence that the video feed conked out at the exact instant the murderer woke up, reasoned the inspector. Ah, take your point, agreed Dr. Ihad. Laura would have had to have preset her sleep serum to terminate mid-flight so she could wake up while everyone else was asleep. And she would have had to have manipulated the in-flight cameras to switch off just before her sleep pod so she wouldn't be seen. Mechanicals were hard at work processing Away Shuttle 1. Luminol all the sleep pods, Lazareth ordered. The floor, the deck, and especially that escape hatch. Already done, sir, reported a blue mechanical, rolling up on mini tank treads. Blood type belongs to Dr. Howard Fishman. Everywhere? Yes, sir. The inspector nodded. And the sleep pods? Sleep pod 3, sir, as well as possible transfer on the exterior of sleep pod 1, replied the mechanical. Nothing by 2 or 4. Am I allowed in here yet? Asked Bethy Haldren. Come on, invited Lazareth. He instructed the mechanicals to dust an overhead panel. Within 30 seconds, they had a hit. Bethy, would that be short for Bethany? The young woman stared back blankly. Did you really need me to stop work, come all the way over here and verify that for you? No, that's not why I asked you out. Look at this, suggested the inspector. What's the probability Laura Worthing's fingerprints would be the only ones on this panel and the jumper pins inside? He could see she didn't find this nearly as stimulating as he did. Did you read the metadata, Inspector? Yes, Bethy. There are tags for garbled grav and electromag interference throughout the flight. But there's also a code for reset jumper pins prior to launch. Her fingernails and proof of tampering to boot, she remarked. Now, if you're going to ask me how well I knew her, didn't really. She was always polite and professional. Touch antisocial, but everyone's a brainiac here. It's like the default setting. Lazareth decided to shift gears. How's Derek doing? For an inhuman, you have a rather human preoccupation with my love life, said the curator. He's young enough to be my bro. He's 4 years younger than you, he interrupted. I'm 4 years younger than my coffee pot. Doesn't stop us from having a relationship. Kind of fetching. She smiled for the first time. He is. Meant my coffee pot, said the inspector. But yeah, Derek too. Didn't know Quantum Trilobe manufactured matchmakers. Should get you a babushka to go with your hat. So you gonna tell me how you found out about my fiancé? Night of the gala, your 65-kilogram ex was charging 2 full adult courses of Langostino etouffee and 3 bottles of Table Red from the best bistro in town. Why do that when dinner is free at the event?
Bethy sighed. Derek told me how he got married just before flying out here to Bioy. The girl in the freezer was on her way to join him, carrying their first child. Malcolm played around, never wanted to marry, never wanted kids.
But you do.
Think I do, Inspector.
You two would have beautiful children. You're both so handsome.
Sure you and the coffee pot wouldn't be too shabby.
Chapter 4. Unlike the 4 strangers aboard with him, Lazareth had no need of a sleep pod on the hopper down to the Planeton. Not that he'd been offered one anyways. Turbulence was unnerving. Could see why people would want to sleep through it. But this away shuttle's in-flight cameras never faltered once. By day 2 of their long passage, what can only be described as operational boredom set in. He passed the time by reading the metadata logs as they generated in real time like so much digital ticker tape. Biometrics measured passengers' hourly weight loss right down to the gram. Systems would then administer intravenous feeding as well as monitor over 1 million other tasks. The inspector sat back in an empty controller seat, strapped himself into the cockpit harnesses, played with the emergency rebreather mask, and eventually pulled out his rosary from an inside pocket. After completing the 10th bead of the 5th glorious mystery, the coronation of the Blessed Virgin Mary as Queen of Heaven and Earth, a visitor of light appeared. It was Ishai. Fitting name, for he was indeed very shy. Every time Lazareth turned to see him, he'd move just enough to keep out of sight. Why not sit for a spell? Take a load off.
I've come with a warning for you, said the angel.
Lazareth had never heard him say anything like this before. For me, personally?
The Lord of Flies keeps to the shadows, as do his children, but are quick to defame and harm any that threaten their hidden religion, lest even one of their occultic ploys be lain bare.
Sauterdane, ruler of all secret societies. Like all faith nowadays, they had few human adherents left. All religion was underground these days, even the wicked ones. You're telling me this man was slain by a member of the chapter of Sauterdane? Asked Lazareth.
I'm going to show you the one you need to find,
replied Ishai.
Lazareth felt himself spiritually lifted outside the away shuttle. He felt sure they were headed to the alien ruins. Strangely, their course veered away from the Planeton and out towards its long, loping belt of moons. At last count, there was no less than 1,000. Mark well that place there, for not by chance she is on moon 666.
A day later, their away shuttle landed on the great Planeton. The ground base, hangar bay, and ruins were all under grav nominalization bubbles, like so many translucent big-top circus tents. If not, the average man would quickly discover he weighed no less than 2,500 kilos. The upkeep for this kind of business was far too expensive to maintain long-term. Modern terrestrialization couldn't even tame the power needs of normal-sized planets, let alone a beast this size. It was nothing more than a traveling carnival owing to these aliens. Here today, gone tomorrow. Plus, the surface of this world was bipolar. Working theory was that the northern and southern hemispheres were in constant flux, taking turns flip-flopping between solid and gas every few millennia. But who could say for sure? Guests rushed aboard trams, heading over to the living quarters to get cleaned up, then afterwards the science center to grab some breakfast, and maybe a little extra grub and a napkin before the first tour began. Lazareth located Mr. Lee Ehad next to his wife in a raiding party around a buffet table. "Hi, Lee." "Inspector," said the man. "Didn't expect to find you down here with us. This is my wife, Lee." The plump woman standing at his side greeted with a curt flick of her wrist. "Lee and Lee Ehad. Charmed," replied the inspector. "Was there something we can do for you?" asked the husband. Or were you looking to cut the line for the honeydew melon? Do you remember telling me this the other day? Asked Lazareth, printing Dr. Ehad's words over his display face. Recall Peter awakening me after we landed, quite startled naturally. Laura was already gone. You were the last to get up, but were you the first to bed? The man stretched a crick in his neck awkwardly. Would you get me some of those tea sandwiches for later? He asked his wife, handing her a plate. The man then walked off towards banks of water coolers in a far corner. The inspector joined him. Believe we all slept at the same time. Peter might have been the last, just to check if we were all secure. Lazareth now flashed a diagram of the away shuttle over his display face. Please indicate for me who was in which sleep pod, 1 through 4. Go ahead and use your fingertip as a stylus. Dr. Ehad took a minute to jog his memory, staring up at the ceiling tiles. Would think the metadata could tell you everything you want to know, but all right, let's think then. He obliged by filling in the digital information. You were in the 4th sleep pod, Lee. Dr. Howard Fishman was the 3rd, Dr. Peter Qoheleth the 2nd, and Laura Worthing 1st. That's peculiar. Why so, Inspector? Because metadata lists Sleep Pod 1 at 90 kilograms and Sleep Pod 2 at 45. The implications of this were sudden. A male had been in Sleep Pod 1 and a female in 2. The man instinctively reached again for the inspector's display face, but it went blank. Let me change my answers, please, begged Dr. Ehad. I made a mistake just now. No need to fret, Lazareth reassured. This is just to satisfy my own curiosity, and deep space metadata is too unreliable to hold up in a courtroom anyways. Chapter 5. Congratulatory slaps on the back and requests for photo ops streamed past Dr. Qoheleth at a dizzying pace. He'd just concluded a highly successful fundraising lecture in front of a recreation of alien skill and craft. Who would have known that distant interstellar life forms would turn out to be so bipedal and fashion-forward as the I Am? Yet Lazareth couldn't shake the feeling that he wasn't the only one that didn't buy a word of this pitch. Whole place was a bit too spit and polish. At any rate, by now the madding crowds were primed to go inside and behold all the promised wonders. For a man who knew he was about to be accused of murder, Peter Qoheleth strode right up to the inspector, singling him out amidst the throngs. In a way, I feel you can appreciate this more than we can, he said. How so? Asked Lazareth. You know with certainty that you were made by creaturely hands, Inspector. Whereas so many of our species, even today, clutch to the flame that there's something somehow immaterial about us, an archaic desire to be imperishable. Funny you don't mind being designed, so long as the designer is perishable, Peter. The man grimaced into a grin, waving at a group of acquaintances and fans. So you came down here to arrest me for murdering Howard, I hear tell. The inspector made a knowing salute. Laura Worthing weighed in at 45 kilos, Lee Ehad 70, Howard Fishman 75. That leaves one other occupant tipping the scales at 90, the one that left their sleep pod in the wee hours that night. How droll. Not sure they'd indict me, my size notwithstanding, over software with more regular grav glitches than a black hole's event horizon. But okay, whatever you say. See you later, Inspector. Lazareth's per diem couldn't swing the suggested donation that afforded a ticket with smoked lamb shank and gamme Beaujolais luncheon. Regardless, a mechanical waiter made his way over with a spare glass. Kind of you to consider me, the inspector thanked him, admiring the wine in the light. Did you know there was a time when humans deemed this varietal nothing but a fraud? A coarse California knockoff of the Pinot Noir from Beaujolais, France. Banned the label, called it a Napa Gamay. Turns out that wasn't quite right either. It was a Valdique grape from Languedoc-Roussillon. The mechanical waiter tilted a metallic head, pretending to be impressed. Lazareth spotted Bethy Haldren and handed her the wine flute.
Now, where have I seen that yellow monogrammed sweatshirt before? She enjoyed a sip. Thank you. It's Derek's. Kind of like being in high school all over again. Your charms are almost as persuasive as his. Very happy for you both, said the inspector. When's the wedding? We're both on the emotional rebound, reminded the curator. Taking things slow might be prudent, don't you think? Beauty and wisdom, Bethy. Now that I've plied you with wine, don't suppose you'd fly me up to one of those moons? The smile evaporated from her lips. Are you trying to get me killed or just fired? Let me tell you about my 402 warrant, he added. It doesn't allow me to arrest anyone, but it does give me power to compel cooperation throughout the course of an investigation. Sounds like a threat, the young woman replied. I was just beginning to like you. No threat at all, Lazareth clarified. It's out of courtesy for our new friendship. Want you to know why your away shuttle is going missing today around lunchtime. Now you could run and go tattle on me to Dr. Qoheleth, or you could look the other way and let me catch all the heat. There are like 1,000 moons, Inspector. You could be landing on some acrid methane hellscape. Give me one good reason for this stunt. Back before sunup, Bethy. That's sunup tomorrow, by the way. Moon 666 wasn't an acrid methane hellscape. Quite a quiet, tranquil spot, as the green volcanoes rarely erupted. Like so many countless billions of others, this place missed the mark for human habitability. An ill-equipped person would be dead before they hit the ground. The inspector emerged from the away shuttle's escape hatch. His metallic pedals for feet left neat impressions inside emeraldine soil. A thorough search of this place could take a hair under 2,000 years. Surface scans were a possibility if you had the lather to requisition those kinds of tools. As it was, Ishai was standing in the distance, pointing. It was indeed a rare treat whenever he allowed himself to be seen, appearing as a robust being of refulgent, resplendent light. Don't know why you're so timid. Here I've been telling everyone you're as homely as a bull mastiff, said Lazareth. Wrong side, 10 degrees north by 30 degrees west. Lazareth obeyed, thinking it might have been useful to know the coordinates beforehand. Nonetheless, Ishai had shaved a couple thousand years. Later he arrived a goodly distance behind an outcropping of boulders, hoping to preserve some element of surprise. Someone had constructed grav nominalization bubbles over the missing 10th away shuttle. Light and movement were coming from inside this makeshift base camp. He was obviously spotted because a female promptly materialized carrying a Makazi 45 rifle. Not who you expected, I take it, said the inspector. Laura Worthing cocked the weapon's handle. I'm Lazareth with the Underborn Police Department. It's a felony to shoot me, or at least wanton destruction of private property. He knew she wasn't going to shoot him, and she knew he knew. The young lady lowered her firearm, then cautiously waved him over. You needn't worry about me. Artificials can't arrest anyone, no matter how guilty they may be. She let him inside the starcraft, pouring out 2 teacups of orange pico for them to share. For the first time in a long time, he imbibed, sipping down a slot near enough his display face, as much to put her at ease as to build trust. Saw you the other night at the Chester Rotterdam Thumb. Saw you too. Work for Peter? She redirected his question. No, he answered. Someone told you where to find me then, I take it, said Laura. I'm investigating the death of Dr. Howard Fishman. She instantly clammed up. Chapter 6. Always a banner day around here when we can get not 1 but 2 stolen away shuttles returned to us, said Peter Qoheleth as Lazareth and Laura Worthing walked up the Chester Rotterdammerthumb's fanning front steps. Scores of curious personnel and general onlookers collected nearby. We're going to conduct separate interviews, one for her and one for you, the inspector explained. Then I'll cross-reference the answers before I call for your arrest. Please allow me to provide you with one of our very best conference rooms for the occasion. Compliments of the museum and planetarium, retorted the man graciously and without a care in the world. Lazareth gave the young lady most of the morning to get showered and otherwise cleaned up before any questioning, though he wouldn't allow Dr. Qoheleth within a league of her. She quietly re-entered after brunch, grateful for the opportunity to freshen. "Please sit," said the inspector. "Very dangerous thing running off to an unexplored moon. Frankly, I'd give most humans no better than 1 in 100 chance of survival." She cropped long, straight bangs between her fingertips and closed her eyes. He couldn't tell if she was relaxing or rehearsing. "What made you decide to flee?" "After I murdered Howard and saw they'd called you out to investigate, I panicked," she replied. "Quite a story, Laura. While talking over teacups, you thought I worked for your boss. Now you're telling me you knew I was here to investigate Dr. Fishman's death?" "Yes," she barely murmured. Lazareth sighed. "Think someone else erected that little setup on the moon and told you to hide out there. Beats me what would motivate you to kill Howard Fishman in the first place." "Well, Inspector, Dr. Fishman was very accomplished. Figured with him out of the way I'd have a better shot at advancement." "Doubt you ever met him until the day the 4 of you boarded that shuttle together," he responded. "Actually makes a lot more sense for you to kill Dr. Qoheleth. He's your department supervisor. Come to think of it, Dr. Peter Qoheleth, 53, senior fellow. Dr. Lee Ahad, 67, senior fellow. Dr. Howard Fishman, 70, senior fellow. Laura Worthing, 28, artist and research assistant. Why were you on that hopper with those 3 men?" "Don't mean to disappoint you," she said, no louder than a whisper. Unlike her boss, she wasn't trying to be leastways smarmy or sassy. She genuinely regretted being a disappointment. "You had about a week and a half of unopened, untouched ration packets on that moon," said the inspector, "which means you'd been subsisting on orange pico tea, best I can tell. Not impossible for a human, but boy, asking a lot." She went mute, as was her custom. Lazareth went across the street to an adjacent building and found Peter Qoheleth yucking it up with 3 others. "There you are," said the man. "Invited my legal team down. Corporate attorney Sam Nill, trial lawyer Abby Hockingale, and defamation barrister Sir Leon Cherryby. You'll have more success impressing your home appliances," replied the inspector. "Just run human behavior algorithms all day, every day, rain or shine." "It's me that's impressed by you, to be sure," said Qoheleth. "My guess is she ain't the real Laura Worthing, only trying to pass," replied Lazareth. "Simple test kit will tell us whether she's synthetic." Peter turned to his legal team. "Watch, this is where he's going to allege I'm blackmailing her into taking the fall for me." "Want to admit that for the record?" asked the inspector. Qoheleth shook his head. "Yeah, that's why I bought and brought the most expensive legal team in the biz. It doesn't matter whether she's human or not. Your problem is she just confessed to making Howard Fishman a corpus delicti." Lazareth made a show of looking around the room naively. "Confessed? Who confessed?" "I have a controlling interest in this property, including all its intercommunications tech," Peter stated. "We overheard your whole conversation together. Unintentionally, of course. Let me guess. Spoiled your entire planned speech about her fingering me as the killer and how I should just save everyone a lot of trouble and give up the ghost." "Dishonest, but not illegal," said Cherryby. "Shall we call it a day?" Everyone stood up from the table in an explosion of sliding chair legs. The room emptied, leaving the inspector sitting alone, the noise of mocking laughter fluttering back through a door deliberately left ajar. After a beat, Lazareth sprang to his feet and angrily gave chase. He tracked everyone down before reaching the lobby. The lawyers quickly turned to encircle their client. Qoheleth waved them off. "It's fine. Give us a minute, please. Something else I can do for you, Inspector. Just need you to know that 100% of my caseload has been brought to justice, and you'll be no different." Are you ever an emotionally charged, competitive little robot? "Guess it's time for me to dust off my CV," lamented Bethy, reclining against her boyfriend's shoulder. "Where's it written you have to quit just because I'm going to arrest your boss?" wondered the inspector, wearing a chef's toque and apron. He came over, carefully balancing 2 serving plates of mackerel almondine with matching lemon peel garnishing. "Looks great," she thanked him. "We'll get married and move to Underbourne," Derek now chimed in. "Not going to wait around to get drafted. I'm going to enlist right after graduation. This way I'll start earning officer's pay right from the giddy-up, and every lather I'm going to send home to you." She hugged and kissed his face tightly. "Since you mention it, Derek, it'd be my great honor if you'd give Bethy this for your engagement." Lazareth removed a jeweler's box with a 20.5-carat diamond ring from his inner pocket. Both lovers just about fell over. "Is this fake?" Bethy exclaimed. "Did you steal it? We can't accept this." "No, it's not. No, I didn't, and yes, you can," Lazareth answered. "Think of me as a quantum metal detector. And as I have zero interest in proposing to my coffee pot, I feel this would be better served starting you two off on the right foot amidst these roaring, warring days. Might even be enough there to start your own family. Keep it safe. Don't show it off." "Are you kidding, Inspector? I'm never letting this thing out of my sight till we reach an appraiser," bragged the young man. Attaboy. The evening came and went with great ease and delight. By midnight, dinner and wine were having their way with the humans. Derek offered Bethy to stay the night, to which the inspector threatened to instantly revoke his gift if she didn't go directly home. The future man and wife embraced again in the dormitory doorway. Then Bethy and Lazareth split a taxi. Chapter 7. Lazareth arrived at the Chester Rotterdammerthum bright and early the next morning, hoping to get a jump on hectoring Dr. Peter Qoheleth into an ulcer or 2. Alas, the good doctor and his team had already returned to the surface of the planeton. Moreover, Qoheleth had given strict orders that no employee was to give the inspector a shuttle ride ever again. Peter had planned on flying Laura Worthing back down to the planeton with him, but the local authorities complied with Lazareth's 402 warrant and sent her to lock up instead. "You know, Bethy," said the inspector, walking unannounced into her office, "think we owe it to ourselves to ask whether or not these aliens are really all that ancient." "Morning," greeted Bethy, not even bothering to look up from type-tapping on a flat screen at her desk. "Think we've covered this territory already, Inspector. They're as real as my fingernails. Plastic recreations based on the excavations." "I'm talking about the whole shebang, Bethy. How do we know the excavations themselves aren't just as phony as those mannequins? Chester Rodder's family tree is astro oil and astro mining. And Dammer Thumbs is all into architecture and industrial design." He now held her attention. "Let me ask you something. Have you ever been let down into those caves in any official capacity?" She piano-tapped her 2 front teeth a few times, then bit down on the eraser end of a pencil. "No, just as a tour." "The only ones that have lent their names and cred to this site are all senior fellows here at the Institute. That's a conflict of interest, Bethy." "Even if what you say is true, Inspector, Laura Worthing still might be your killer." Lazareth metronomed his head dome from side to side. "Yeah, but see, got Dr. Peter Qoheleth pegged as a thief. Dr. Howard Fishman was going to expose this place as a scam, or maybe refuse to go along with it. My problem is I'm having trouble finding anyone that'll take me down there anymore." "That's because we were all warned not to by Dr. Q. But tell you what, won't get fired for going down there myself." "Soil samples be enough?" inquired the curator with a wink. "Chip me off some of that alien stonework. C14 half-life ought to do the trick," said the inspector. "There won't be any carbon down there that isn't us." "Think that's the point, Bethy. If it's inside the ancient walls, then the walls aren't ancient." "Think the point is I was right about my CV, Inspector," she quipped, reaching for her jacket. "Derek is going to be disappointed, though. Supposed to pick me up for dinner at 17:30. "Yeah, well, don't worry yourself about it. I'll warm him up some mackerel almondine leftovers," Lazareth promised. The inspector made it over to the Knightsboro Pond Detention Center by mid-afternoon and found Laura Worthing in a cell with 5 other ladies of varying ages and reputes. "Can I get a privacy room, please?" he called back over his shoulder. Officer Evie tersely escorted Lazareth to a small space with stools parted by two-way plexiglass. The young security woman did little to nothing to shield her displease with being bossed around by Scrap. Laura Worthing joined soon after with typical taciturn deportment. The inspector produced a thermos, poured out some tea, and slid it through a slot. Earl Grey, all I could get. Laura, we both know you didn't murder Dr. Howard Fishman. She sipped quietly. Fine, chalk that up as a rhetorical comment. But let's say I'm right. Then you're lying to cover for the real killer. And we both know who that is, too. So we gotta figure out what he's got on you that's buying your cooperation. It has to be an awfully powerful motive for you to incriminate yourself. Allow me a little rope here. While at university, Laura Worthing bought a synthetic. That's not guesswork. Can prove that. Got the receipts. My guess is it was a twin model, which had been all the rage. Only how could someone from Laura Worthing's meager upbringing afford such a thing? Maybe Peter Qoheleth fronted her the lather. He was a professor at university. She was in his class. Then the incident happens, and he helps that synthetic assume his student's identity. So where's the real Laura Worthing today? Who knows? Let's just say I'm not hoping for the best on that score. The young woman finally spoke. Excuse me, I need to use the toilet. Sorry, must be all the tea. You can go in a bit, replied Lazareth. No, I need to go right now, she insisted, rising to her feet and walking over to the door. You'll have to hold it, Ms. Worthing, he apologized. People that admit to murder don't enjoy the same civil liberties as everyone else. Sit down. She obeyed, remounting her plastic stool. Everyone knows how protective synthetics are about their children, at least as much as any natural human mother, if not a Sasquatch. Scary for a lot of folks, actually. So today I also brought along a test kit, results of which will tell me two things. One, if you're human or not. Two, if you've ever been pregnant before. The inspector set a sterilized medical device on his side of the plexiglass. Now is the time to go use that lavatory. And the officer is also going to assist you with a whole blood analyzer while you're in there. He signaled Officer Evie, who was informed what needed doing. Test results came back predictably. This Laura Worthing was indeed a synthetic. She'd birthed a zybritic daughter, the half-human DNA of which would be forever a part of her physiology. The mystery child's paternal donor wouldn't be known without a candidate to match against and would require wrangling consent. Back in Gen Pop, Lazareth pushed her to voluntarily identify the father, but it was fruitless. You're wrong about me, she repeated from the unfriendly side of the jail bars. I killed Dr. Howard Fishman. Let me try this, Laura, said the inspector. The father of your child is only promising to keep her alive so long as you do your part for him. Am I right? But here's the thing. Eventually I'm going to nail him and get a conviction with or without your testimony. See, I'm very clever that way. Then what do you calculate he's going to do with your daughter? We both know he doesn't love her, or you, nor anyone other than his own skin. Her lips pursed tightly, refusing to budge, but the synthetic's eyelids betrayed her. A streaming tear leapt right off her cheek onto Lazareth's beige blazer with patched elbows. Help me find her, and I'll use jurisdictional leverage to see your daughter is never deactivated, ever. She'll be forever protected as necessary evidence in the conviction of Dr. Fishman's murderer, even once the war ends. Now, what's her name? Chapter 8. While she wouldn't give up the father's name, her daughter's name was Thea. Lazareth had a strong intuition where he might find this Zybrid. First things first, however. He arrived at Derek's dorm to see the lad get properly fed. Only all the inspector's knocks went unanswered. He tried a few more times and with more force after calling out his name. One of Derek's drinking buddies opened a door down the way. Detective? Inspector, corrected Lazareth. We've met. Yes, sir, apologized the jock, coming over and handing him a handwritten note. Derek left already. He wanted me to give you this if I saw you. The message indicated Derek had decided to join Bethy and that they'd all meet up after they returned from the Planeton. The inspector went back to the small country inn. Hadn't actually spent much time here and was overdue for a recharge. But rather than powering down for a spell, he kept on thinking, processing, crunching numbers. While it was understandable that Bethy would want the athletic Derek to tag along with her, still didn't thrill Lazareth. If anything, his presence down there would only draw unwanted attention. But Bethy was an intelligent young lady. She'd probably use him as her alibi for snooping around. Just say her fiancé couldn't swing the expense of a ticket, and she really wanted him to see these once-in-a-lifetime exhibits. There was a knock at the door. Unlock, the inspector called out. The auto locks on the room's deadbolts released, and Dr. Lee Ihad's artificial manservant let himself inside.
You're a trusting sort, Inspector. What if it hadn't been me?
Technically speaking, it's not you, Doctor. It's your voice. And your shady districts are safer than Mansion Row on Volkstein Pond. How'd you find me?
My manservant ascertained from authorities at the detainment center that this is the address you listed during your visit with Laura Worthing.
Why all the fuss, Lee?
Inspector, I'm so sorry. There's been a terrible accident down here. Felt you deserved better than an impersonal call. Presently, this is the best I can do to be with you.
Lazareth rose to his feet. Accident? Dr. Ihad's artificial dramatically waved metal fingers into the air.
A curator got caught during routine decontamination. Asphyxiation occurred over a 20-minute cycle. She was there unauthorized. There was no way for anyone to know until it was too late.
The inspector fell seated on the edge of the bed again, before sprinting out of the doorway. Within seconds, he'd hailed an auto driver, demanding to be taken to the residence of Dr. Peter Qoheleth. He wasn't about to sit idly during the ride over. He immediately called the man's private number. Won't let me come to you, make you come to me, Lazareth muttered to himself. I'm sorry, sir, replied the auto driver helpfully. Were you speaking with me?
Hello,
answered Qoheleth. You get in that hopper and get yourself back up here immediately. That's an order, commanded the inspector.
You're stretching that 402 warrant kind of thin, aren't you, Inspector? Can't help you. I'm afraid we've just suffered another terrible loss. Won't be available for some time.
For the record, I'll be charging you with double homicide. Dr. Howard Fishman and Bethany Haldren. Same M.O., Dr. Qoheleth, both via intentional suffocation.
What a wicked thing to say without a widow's mite of proof. How dare you? I'll sue. Oh, and to correct your record, it'll have to be triple homicide. The reckless girl took her boyfriend down there, too.
The auto driver announced they'd arrived at the gates of the requested address.
Did I hear that correctly? Are you actually at my home? What do you hope to find? Thea, perhaps. Yes, she's my daughter. Will you forgive an old man his vices? Even you'll have to admit Laura Worthing is quite comely. I'm only human, even if she isn't. By the way, that load of turds you laid about 100% conviction rate? I checked. Your arrest ratio bears little distinction from your human counterparts.
Let's get this thing right, Peter. I said 100% of my cases are brought to justice. You're going to learn the truth in that better than most.
Only you left the magical powers of your proto-black hole in Underborn. My people wrote Quantum Trilobe's report on your eccentric star, Sovan 3. My guess is you've been gaming its reality-bending tricks to suit your personal flavor of justice.
Would you like me to activate privacy glass, sir? The auto driver now asked. Lazareth nodded appreciatively, patiently.
Ciao, Inspector.
Your people? You mean Sodder Dane, Peter.
Oh, now, be careful. That's going to be harder than murder to prove.
Not often I run into a human with less heart than me. By the Lord's grace and mercy, you're still drawing breath. Even you could repent for your life of occulti infiltrati. But you won't. That would require humility. Your portion of the afterlife will be worse than most. Dudael, cauldron of God. Could describe it, but better you just find out for yourself. Could you repeat yourself, please, Inspector? Was busy brewing a spot of coffee just now. You were talking some tosh about an afterlife, weren't you? Chapter 9. Lazareth prayed his rosary, draped inside the sunny bedsheets of the small country inn. After the Salve Regina, he looked up at the lightly breezing blades of a ceiling fan. It was after midnight and raining. Never made a single request of you before. True, agreed Ishai. Never one, always many. He resumed his practice of keeping just out of sight once again. Help me bring this guy to justice. Every drachma of every account gets paid in full, if not always in this life. What I want is in this life. Then you're no different than he. Want it for Derek and Bethy, but there are no hiccups out here. What he's done is irreversible. If only we were an underborn space, Ishi. Keep faith, the angel instructed. Justice always comes. Always. But I haven't done one bit of good in this case. Not a thing. You'll soon be home. By the time you get back, you'll know why you were called here, and you'll never be the same. It'll be like entering a new plane of existence. Fatherhood. Lazareth couldn't fathom what he was on about. He spent 60 seconds counting the revolutions of the fan blades. 120, exactly. You still here? If you want my advice, and you do, don't you? Then ask yourself what kind of man this is, said Ishai. You already know the answer. A week later, the inspector had ruled out Moon 666 for Thea's whereabouts. The human half of her would never survive out there without her mother. Had to be with the father, but where? Find out soon enough. It was time to move against Peter Qoheleth. An auto driver delivered him to the Chester Rotterdammerthum, whereupon Lazareth promptly demanded an away shuttle be prepped for immediate departure. When the pilots rewarded him with rude impudence, he had Officer Evie arrest the lot of them on the spot. Several days later, the inspector found himself back on the Planeton's surface, this time with a half-dozen officers in tow. Lazareth and the Knightsboro Pond security left the hangar bay and caught trams over to the Science Center. Lunch had just been served, and hearty applause and lofty speeches were wafting about the air. Had to hand it to the man. Dr. Qoheleth was as unflappable as ever. Personally served the officers platters of lamb shank with mint sauce as soon as they got inside. It was as if he'd been anticipating this all along. Inspector, you never call, you never write, beginning to think you'd given up and gone home to Underborn. I'll be leaving soon enough, and you'll be coming with me. As your prisoner? Asked the man. Yes, sir. That's the way it's going to be, the inspector continued. It's a death penalty case, not some local civil matter. Death penalty? How dreadful. Peter fretted. Don't suppose there's any way I can convince you that you're about to step in it big time. Not too late to back out with your reputation intact. Reputation is a human concern. We'll see. Qoheleth gestured. Sir Leon Cherrybee was sitting 4 rows deep around a crowded banquet table of patrons and boosters. He held a digital card high into the air. I have here the unaltered, unedited copy of what happened on that fateful shuttle the night Dr. Fishman died. It's time-coded and time-stamped for authenticity. In addition, I also have my client's sworn statement that he was the one that blacked out the edition you saw, Inspector. Hologram imagery blinked to life all around the room. Several gasps escaped just as soon as Laura Worthing exited Sleep Pod 1, awoke Howard Fishman from Sleep Pod 3, then executed the groggy man by ventilating the away shuttle with dead air from outer space. Everyone turned away during the worst bits. By the end, all eyes went wide and white on Lazareth. He walked slowly forward and received this newest evidence from the lawyer. You can validate that the away shuttle one's memory banks match this lock and key. I'm sure they will, said the inspector solemnly. So she really did it. And the metadata? Glitched. Peter Qoheleth interjected. Tried to tell you. Certainly a showman, Peter. Could have simply played this for me in your offices, Lazareth pointed out. Still, tampering with evidence is a crime. Obstruction. But not capital, said Dr. Qoheleth. Probably more like a fine in the hands of my trusty team, but not likely to stir a jury's sympathy either, said the inspector. Think I can help my husband with that issue, sang a new voice from across the room. Mrs. Laura Qoheleth entered, the spitting clone image of Laura Worthing. She was flanked by Sam Nill and Abby Hawkingale, holding hands with a demure, diminutive youngster. This is my daughter, Thea. Your daughter or your Zybrid? Lazareth inquired directly, without missing a beat. She frowned. Could never give my husband a family, so my synthetic is how we experience the joys of children together. You're quite youthful yourself to have a child her age. What's she, 13? 12, said Mrs. Qoheleth. Owing to the difference in our ages, Peter requested we keep our love and our marriage vows very, very private affairs. With the effort now looming over Thea, he's a forward-thinking man. Wouldn't you concur? Amazing, the inspector marveled. Still, why would the gentle soul I talked with on that moon and down at lockup ever harm Dr. Fishman? Howard found out about my daughter, added Peter Qoheleth. He was, shall we say, avidly rooting for the red side to win this war, and as a result he learned how avidly synthetics protect their offspring. Lazareth couldn't help notice Dr. Lee Ahad reflecting deeply at the bottom of his empty cup. That right, Lee? That how it was? You and Dr. Howard Fishman were friends long before this place came around. Till now I only heard the best about him. What do you got to say? Lee deflated like a leaky balloon. Well, I couldn't, really. If that's everything, Inspector, said Sir Leon Cherryby, trying desperately to move things towards conclusion. Oh yeah, that'll do it for sure. It's all she wrote, said the inspector. I mean, other than the fact that 2 kids were ready to expose this place as a sham before they were murdered. Other than that, we're in fine shape here. Outrageous, decried Cherryby. It was a tragic accident. That's not for a lawyer to determine, Lazareth barked back. This is a crime scene till I say differently. Fine, you waste your own time. My family and I are leaving at once, said Dr. Qoheleth, grabbing his wife by the hand. Take me to the remains of Bethany Haldren and Derek Criss. By the blue blazes, Inspector, there aren't any remains. Repeat yourself, Doctor, demanded the inspector vigorously, now printing every spoken word across his display face. You heard me, Peter Qoheleth argued. There's nothing left of them. Thrice makes it certain. There isn't anything left. Lazareth threw up his arms. Makes no sense. They died the same way as Dr. Fishman. Sudden, violent air decompression. Howard was in a small, cramped vessel, Dr. Qoheleth raged. And you saw how bad he looked. These 2 went through kilometers of industrial exchange vents, the last bend of which is a high-speed turbine laser dematerialization field. Any spare atoms are spread over 1,000 dunes. You're sure? Of course. Positive. Absolutely. The inspector waved a metallic finger, generating a cheek-clicking noise. Hevel, hevel, all is hevel, Dr. Qoheleth. Turn out your pockets. Excuse me? Objected Peter Qoheleth. I'll do no such thing. Yes, you will, said Officer Evie. Dr. Qoheleth stared nervously at his lawyers. They nodded at him regrettably. I don't see why. I'll tell you what's in his pockets if you're all curious, said Lazareth. A jewelry box with one of the fattest diamonds you'll ever lay eyes on. Gave it to Bethy and Derek as an engagement gift, which you found after dragging their bodies down there to stage an accident. You'd be home free right now if you could have left it behind. But how would you ever forgive yourself for letting it get atomized? It'd sparkle from the back of your eyelids night after night as you tossed and turned in your bed, haunting your greedy soul to the end. because you're not a scientist, not an explorer, not even a doctor. You're a thief, and in my opinion, a petty one at that." Mrs. Qoheleth's eyeballs locked with her husband's. "The young man asked me to hold it for safekeeping, that's all," he said. "Why would he do that?" Lazareth wondered aloud. "It's worth a fortune. You're even afraid to part with it." The doctor swallowed hard. "To keep from losing it down in the mines." The inspector walked up to his suspect. "So you knew they were going down there, but decided to let them die in a routine decontamination cycle? Be quicker, Peter Rabbit. Think. Peter Qoheleth feigned a weak, light-hearted giggle and pulled the jewelry box from his jacket pocket. "How did you know?" Lazareth laughed genuinely. "That gem passed through our strange quantum entanglement back home. Ironically, that's one item I can locate at any time, no matter where it is or who it's with. Underborn sends her compliments, by the way. My client's going to swear under oath that the kids were going out in a dune buggy when they handed him that stone, and that he had no idea they were illegally trespassing when they died," said Sir Leon Cherrybee. The inspector shrugged. "Believe me, by the time I get off that stand, a craven negligence charge is going to put your boy away for more years than he's got left in this world. Please don't do this to our family," Mrs. Qoheleth pleaded tearfully. "I didn't," Lazareth responded. "Your husband did this to your family." She ran out of the science center, face in her hands. "Mama!" Thea called after her. But the father squeezed his daughter tightly, forbidding her to leave his side. Chapter 10. Captain Ryland booked Lazareth passage on a mineral ore hauler rounding Bioy in 3 weeks. He'd sweet-talked the captain into swinging by Knightsboro Pond and picking up his stray inspector before heading home for Underborn. Best he could do. Everything else was military, and those were shipping out to the front lines. One day, as Lazareth was packing the last of his Spartan belongings into a little wheeled suitcase, an incoming call rang from Officer Evie. Laura Worthing was asking to see him again. Auto drivers were making a killing off him lately. He arrived that morning and found Laura Worthing waiting in the same small space separated by 2-way flexiglass. "You're right, Laura. Was wrong about you. You did the deed. But it was your owner that forced you." She wasn't forthcoming, as per usual, only turning her head down. "You called me. Why am I here?" "Peter told me Dr. Fishman was going to hurt Thea, and that silencing him would be the best thing for her future," said the synthetic. "You executed an innocent man to protect a guilty one. Not sure how synthetics dream, but that one's got a sting." "Inspector, will they deactivate me?" "Res judicata." "But you'll see to it my daughter isn't, won't you? She's a material witness, like you said." "Laura, my offer was on condition of cooperation, which you've never once given me. After I put your Dr. Qoheleth away, Thea's going to go live with her human mother." "She deactivated herself this morning." The inspector stiffened bolt upright on his stool. "Madam called to say goodbye to me personally. You'll find her in the upstairs lavatory, though the door is locked from the inside." "Evie!" Lazareth screamed loudly. The young officer ran into the room. "Did this detainee get any calls this morning?" "Think so, yeah," said Officer Evie. "From where?" The inspector wanted to know. "Someone in her household called." Lazareth had emergency personnel meet him at the Qoheleth estate within the hour. Crews broke into the upstairs master bedroom lavatory and found the scene just as the synthetic had said. Laura Qoheleth's body was in the bathtub, entombed in suds and electrical cables. Thea was on the other side of the house, in a study being attended by a mechanical playmate in a party dress. They were moving checkers around the board of red and black alternating squares. "Does she know?" asked an artificial paramedic. The inspector shook his head. "You want me to contact social services?" Thea looked up from her game. "What are you doing here, Inspector? Are you letting my papa come home now? I'll go tell Mama." Ishai's words became instantly clear.
No, sweetheart, Lazareth told her. He's not coming home. Pack up all your things. You're going to be leaving here with me. We're going to Underborn.